as I checked in with Queen City Bookstores to talk about upcoming Buffalo Comic-Con. Take a look. With superheroes on the big screen and the small screen like Arrow and The Flash, comic book characters have captured the imagination of audiences for generations. Buffalo Comic-Con is a great way to get inside the action. Getting a little bit more information on that is Emil Novak of Queen City Bookstore. Now, Emil, tell me a little bit, first off, what is Comic-Con?
Well, Comic-Con is a fancy little word that was invented maybe about 30 or so plus years ago out in San Diego. The famous one was called the San Diego Comic-Con. You see it all over Entertainment Tonight and shows of that nature and all those like TV shows. And that's where it came together, taking the comic book, and they're called conventions, and conventions begin with C-O-N, and that's where the word Comic-Con came together.
Now, there's a lot of people that have younger kids that are enwrapped in comic book superheroes. Is this an activity that families can bring their children to?
Oh, it really is, more so than ever, actually. Back in the 60s and things, comics were more about, like, you being a young kid, you read your comics in the 70s, that kind of thing, and you grow up with them, you grow along with them and into them. That changed somewhere along the 90s, but with technology and Disney buying Marvel and everything, it's all changed, and a lot of these kids are all back now because of the movies and the TV shows and, you know, the Walking Deads and all Marvel's movies and what DC does and et cetera, et cetera. It really is very, very inviting and friendly.
Now, if you do an internet search for Comic-Con, a lot of images of people dressed up in pretty extravagant costumes are going to show up. Does that happen here in Buffalo?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a major facet of the show. Lots of males and females just love to dress up in their favorite characters, and the creativity and what goes into it is pretty impressive when you actually see what they do.
Now, on a general level, what is it about comic books that people love to be a part of? What keeps them coming back to these storylines?
Well, you know, I mean, deep inside, comics are written by normal people like we are, and the comics deal with issues and things that people have, you know. And you know, the best example is Peter Parker with his little foibles and things he deals with. You know, with his problems with his girlfriends. He's not this and that. He's got his Aunt May, and Uncle Ben died. His father, you know, is missing, etc. Everybody feels a little sadness with certain things. We all have our little things like that. And there's the human factor that's built into comics that is why they got so popular in the 60s when they relaunched again in the 60s, so to speak. They really brought the human element into it.
Now, looking around, though, there are stacks upon stacks. The walls are almost wallpapered with comic books. So for the person that wants to get involved, maybe their son or daughter wants to read some comic books, where's a good place to start?
Well, I mean, right now, all the companies, they publish reprints of the past stories, like the origins and things. But what they do is they constantly retell the origins, and they modernize them slightly, and they make them contemporary and brand new and very inviting for all age levels. And if you're worried about your child, maybe you don't want them to see the superhero thing yet, there's tons of funny comics that are based on TV shows and the Archies and the Sonics, and there's no shortage of stuff for young age kids. But a lot of parents who maybe read comics in the 80s or so, they have kids that are, you know, 12, 15 years old, whatever it might be. There are superheroes for all ages, so don't be scared of that. But it's a very great hobby, and if you like the non-superhero, the independent market is very, very brisk these days. A lot of creativity comes from companies such as Image Comics and Dark Horse. So you don't have to feel embarrassed about reading comics. People talk about them in coffee shops and food restaurants all the time now, and in workplaces too. It's very common now.
And going back to Comic-Con, my final question for you is for people that are showing up and they see you, are they going to see you in costume?
No, I don't wear a costume anymore. I mean, I have too many things to do at the show that day, but I've been the Lone Ranger before and a few things like that, but not in a while.
All right, well, thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find a phone booth to change into my superhero Superman costume, so you'll just have to deal with me in this button-up. If you'd like to check out with Buffalo Comic-Con, it's happening October 5th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Marriott on Millersport Highway. Visit BuffaloComicCon.com for more details. We're going to send it over to the kitchen for some more superhero actions.